Stop. Just stop for a moment. Pause everything. Take a deep breath. I know you lost something. Maybe a job, maybe a career, maybe the title that told you who you were. And maybe you've been thinking, if I'm not that anymore, then who am I? If I don't have that title, what's left of me? But I need to tell you something that will change how you see yourself. Your job is not your identity. It's what you wear, not who you are. Let me tell you what you've been feeling. When people asked, so, what do? You had an answer. And that answer felt like it meant something. It gave you value. It gave you purpose. It gave you a place in the world. And then you lost it. The job ended. The company let you go. The career shifted. The role disappeared. And suddenly you don't know how to answer that question anymore. And it feels like you didn't just lose a job. You lost yourself. Because your job wasn't just what you did. It was who you were. And now without it, you feel empty, invisible, like you're floating with no anchor, no identity, no purpose. But that's not true. Not even close. Let me tell you about the first time I lost my costume. I was 27 years old, working in financial services. My title was research manager, hedge funds. I love that title. Not because I love the work, I didn't, but because when I went to networking events, conferences, when I met new people, when someone asked, so Armando, what do? I had an answer that made them take me very seriously. I'm a research manager. I help major hedge funds conduct qualitative due diligence on important investment deals in the public and private equity sectors. Wow. And people would nod. They'd look impressed. They'd treat me like I mattered. That title gave me a sense of place, a sense of meaning. Even though I was miserable in that job, even though I hated the work, at least I had an identity. And then one day they called me into a meeting. HR was there. None of my managers showed up. They told me I was being let go. I remember I was wearing a button-down shirt, slacks, dress shoes, the usual boring business casual, looking the part, playing the role. And I started to tear up. And the HR rep, she shouted at me in an almost demonic way. Why are you crying? Stop crying. This is not a place to cry. God, it was terrifying. I remember I handed in my laptop, walked out of that high-rise in downtown Austin, got in my car, shell-shocked, confused. I drove up out of the parking garage for the last time after 4 years of coming and going, day after day, tearing the brakes in my car, defining myself by that building, that role, that title. And when I saw the high-rise disappearing in my rearview mirror, I broke down. Because the reality caught up with me. Because I had been fired from a place I gave my all. And I was now unemployed. It was my first time getting fired from a real job. But what scared me most wasn't losing the income. It was this. If I'm not a research manager for hedge funds, then who am I? Because I had equated my job with my identity. And without it, I felt like a failure. That night, I went home to the house I was renting. Beautiful 1930s home in Terrytown. masks on the walls, books everywhere. It was my sanctuary. I sat in my bedroom, surrounded by my art, by my readings, and I thought, I have no idea who I am without that title, without that job. Let me show you what I didn't understand back then, though. Imagine an actor. They put on a costume for a role. Maybe they're a doctor. Maybe they're a lawyer. Maybe they're a superhero with magical powers. And they wear that costume for hours, days, weeks, months. They embody the role as they should. They live in it. But when the show ends, when the cameras turn off, when the curtain closes, they take off the costume. And underneath, they're still them. The costume was never their skin. Your job is the costume, not your skin. Your title, your role, your career, those are things you wear, things you do, things you embody for a period of time. But they're not who you are. And when you lose the job, when the role ends, when the costume comes off, you're still here. The person underneath didn't disappear. Your worth didn't vanish. Your identity didn't die. You just took off a costume. And now you're standing in your own skin again. And that can feel vulnerable. That can feel exposed. That can feel terrifying, especially in a society and workaholic culture that defines its values and worth by its work, by hyper-materialism, by the worship and glorification of money and its accumulation. But here's the thing, that vulnerable feeling is also the truth. You are not what you do. You are who you are underneath it all. Period. Now let me tell you why you believed the job was you in the first place. It's because the world taught you that your value comes from your productivity. Think about it. From the time you were young, you learned that your worth is tied to what you achieve, what you do, what you produce. So you built your identity around your job, your career, because that's what the world valued. That's what gave you status. That's what made you feel like you mattered. And when the job ended, it felt like you ended too. But here's the truth. The world lied to you. Your value was never in the costume. Your worth was never in the title. Your identity was never the role. You matter because you exist, not because you produce, not because you work hard, but because you are valuable, because you're human, not because you're employed, but because you have worth, because you're here. Not because of what you do for 20, 40, 60, 80, or even 100 hours a week in some office. It took me too many years to understand this hard truth. Years of tying my worth to titles, to companies, to achievements. I remember I built another startup. I gave it everything. And when burnout caught up with me again, when the company struggled, when things went wrong, I spiraled for days, for weeks, because I had made the same mistake again. I cared too much. The company became my life. The company became my identity. And when something went wrong with the company, I felt like something was wrong with me. If the company wasn't doing well for any reason, I equated it with Armando isn't doing well. And I'd spiral into depression. So I convinced myself that everyone was judging me constantly, convinced that I was a failure when the company wasn't doing good. But my friends would even tell me, Armando, we love you for who you are. Even if you lost everything tomorrow and had to flip burgers for money, you would still be Armando. And we would still love you regardless every day. They would tell me, you're not your job. But me, I couldn't hear it. I couldn't believe it. It felt too easy, too good to be true. Until recently, I remember I was flying to a conference up in North Carolina. Early morning flight. I was so tired, so sleepy, burned out. I was sitting by the window, exhausted, frustrated. And as we climbed above the clouds, I looked out at the sunrise over the east. Beautiful, beautiful view. Golden, peaceful. And in that moment, 30,000 feet up, nothing but sky and light. And it hit me. I need to be good to myself. I am way too hard on myself. I'm not my job, not my career. I'm Armando. And everything else is extra. The costume can come off. The titles can change. The companies can succeed or fail. But underneath all of that, I'm still here. I'm still whole. I'm still enough. And for the first time, I actually believed it. So let me tell you who you actually are. You are not your job title. You are not your salary. You are not your company. You are also not your productivity. You are what remains when all of that is stripped away. You are the values you hold, the people you love, the kindness you show, the curiosity you carry. You are the resilience that got you through hard times, the humor that kept you going, the hope that refused to die. You are the experiences that shaped you, the lessons you learned, the person you became through every single success and every single failure. That's your identity, not the costume, the person wearing it. And here's what you need to understand. You can put on a new costume anytime. You can find a new job. You can build a whole new career. It's never too late. You can create a new role. But those will always be costumes. Things you wear, things you do. They will never be who you are. And the sooner you separate the costume from the skin, the freer you become. Because when your identity is tied to your job, you live in constant fear. What if I lose it? What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? But when you know who you are underneath it all, you can lose the job and still be whole. Think about it. So here's what I need you to do. Stop defining yourself by what you do. Stop letting your job title answer the question, who am I? Start asking, who am I when I'm not working? Who am I underneath the costume I wear every day? What do you care about? What makes you laugh? What do you actually value in life? Who do you love? What do you even believe in? That's who you are, not the job, not the title, not the company and its culture, not the role. And if you lost your job, if you're in between roles, if you don't know what you're doing next, that's okay too. I've been there before plenty of times. Trust me. You're not lost. You're not empty. You're not nobody. You just took off a costume and you're standing in your own skin. And that's more than enough. And if you need to reclaim yourself, if you need to separate the costume from the skin, leave a comment down below. Just type 5 words. I am not my job. And say it out loud. Because when you stop confusing what you do with who you are, you reclaim your worth regardless of employment. So no, your job is not your identity. It's what you wear, not who you are. And who you are, that's still here. That's still whole. That's still enough. You are not the costume. You are the person underneath. And that person, they've been valuable all along, with or without the title.